The fun never stops here on the early line. Dubs Anderson, first 2.5 hours of the show, bringing that heat. We'll see him on Wednesdays during football season right here on the early line. But now some fun here from a guy that we all know, appropriately called the Pope of Greenwich Village. It's Joe Lisi in with us this morning, baby. Who's ready to rock?
What did I do to deserve this? This is becoming too consistent, Donnie. I don't know. Yeah. You know, the people have spoken. Could this be it? I don't know. You know, pro football today, about 2 weeks out. I can't wait. Can't wait to chop it up for you. The season's here, finally.
They took my thumb, Charlie. So there you go. Anybody watch the Pope of Greenwich Village, check it out. Joe Lisi in his finest performance. Yeah, hey, man, fantastic stuff. We can talk movies or we can talk coaches who, Mike, frankly, could be doing movies. That's Deion Sanders. Take a look at the game starting out. By the way, Joe, I love this. Thursday football, Friday football, Saturday football, Sunday football, Monday football. The boys at CFT are going to be working overdrive this weekend, and I can't wait to get it started right away. Colorado and North Dakota State, a favorite here, opening up at the FanDuel Sportsbook at 8.5. A little bit of a shift now. FanDuel now showing 9.5 as a favorite towards Colorado, a 59.5 point total here. Let's go two-pronged attack here, Joe. Give me your analysis on this football game, and also, what are we thinking about Colorado on the season as well?
Well, big picture Colorado, and I've said this from the get-go, Donnie, he needs to get back to bowl respectability and eligibility. 6 wins, I think, is within the realm of possibility now with the move to the Big 12. They have the quarterback in regards to Shedeur Sanders, 27 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Travis Hunter, when healthy, is one of the best dual threats that we've seen in college football. He can catch it, and then what he does in regards to the defensive side of the ball. But the concern for Colorado, not just in terms of big picture, Donnie, but in terms of this game with North Dakota State and Cam Miller, their quarterback, is that offensive line needs to get better. Colorado had the worst rushing offense in all of college football last year, only rushing for 68 yards per game. They allowed 56 sacks on the season. That needs to get better. Otherwise, they're going to be in a dogfight. I'm going to take the points with North Dakota State. This is a team at the FCS level that has won multiple national championships. They have a veteran quarterback in Cam Miller, a veteran offensive line. I think they can run it early on, and that really will dictate the tempo. And I said this too. You look at Colorado last year, Donnie, they won 3 games right out of the get-go. Once they lost that first game to Oregon, it's like they packed in the season. It was gone, right? That cannot happen this year in year number 2 with Deion Sanders. They need to get back to a bowl.
Like, also, let me talk to you about this game itself, too. Does this feel like it's going to be a referendum on the Colorado Buffaloes and Deion Sanders? Like, we're not, like, last year it was like, what are we going to get? Oh, boy, they surprised and beat a ranked TCU team. Now, we found that at the end of the season, Joe, TCU wasn't really supposed to be that ranked team that they were in week number 1, so you do get the surprises. But what does happen if Colorado loses game number 1 here? Because you look at their win total, it's 5.5. Obviously, baked into that is they're expecting a victory in week number 1 to win the Big 12. We probably don't think that's going to be possible, but at 25-1. What are the outcomes of this game? Because let's just say they lose this game, Joe, but what happens if they win it convincingly? Does that change anybody's opinions?
I don't think it changes anybody's opinion in regards to big picture, right? They're one of the most heavily bet teams in regards to not just win the Big 12 championship, but more importantly, to actually make the college football playoff with a 5.5 win total because it is Deion in that program, right? Here's the thing. If they win it the way they did against, let's say, TCU last year, where they come out, they put up 45 points, and they give up, let's say, 30, and they still cover this game, nobody's going to change their perception. But if they come out and lose this game to North Dakota State, everything is still in front of them. But what is the mindset of this team? That is the biggest thing and question mark that I have for Colorado big picture is their mind into it? Do they have to go 12-0, or are their sights set on getting back to a bowl and potentially challenging for a Big 12 championship? So again, this game is going to be critical to the outcome for the mindset of Deion, but I'm taking the points, Donnie. I mean, North Dakota State plays very good defense. They play a lot of zones, so they're going to limit Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter in terms of big plays over the top. They're going to force them to be patient, and that's going to be a cause of concern for that Colorado offense.
Two NFL guys for sure on that roster, and we'll talk about Shedeur Sanders here to win the Heisman at a 40-1 price, and also Travis Hunter to win the Heisman at a 60-1 price. What's the outcome, what we can anticipate from them? Is Travis Hunter going to be a full-way, 60-minute man, both sides here? And also, can Shedeur Sanders live up to the hype and be that top 5 quarterback in the draft that some people expect him to be?
Yeah, great questions. I think when Travis Hunter, you look at it, the first game against TCU last year, he played, 108 plays? If he continues that from the start of the season through the end and plays 12 games or 13 games this year, he's going to be mentioned in regards to the Heisman Trophy, assuming that he's close to 1,000 yards receiving or he scores multiple touchdowns on the offensive side of the ball and leads in regards to interceptions for the team. So I think he has a very good shot. He's the only player potentially from a dual threat perspective that can win the Heisman. We haven't seen a defensive player since Charles Woodson, but he's that type of player that could shut down the opposing offense's best player and really do it on the offensive side of the ball. For Shedeur Sanders, yeah, he could put up the numbers. But again, are they going to give the Heisman, and I'll ask you, are they going to give the Heisman Trophy to a player that, let's say, throws for 5,000 yards, 40 or 50 touchdowns, and their team is 4-8? Bailey Zappi didn't win it a couple of years ago. That's the biggest question mark. And when you look at Shedeur big picture, is he the type of guy that could really lead his team from behind or get this team to 8 wins? If he can, then he's going to be mentioned in regards to the Heisman. If he just compiles stats, I don't think they give it to him.
Yeah, if we were going by statistics, a couple Hawaii quarterbacks would be running away with the Heisman Trophy race over the past 20 years. So I agree with you in that instance. You have to have your Heisman moment, not throwing for 400 yards against an FCS team. It's throwing for 400 yards against your best opponent in the Big 12 while you're trying to challenge to win the Big 12 on that spot. Now, week number 1, Joe, we love it because there's many more games than week number 0, and they cover a multitude of days, which is great. But we are going to get our fair share of blowouts, but we also are going to get the first look at some of these top 25 teams. Western Carolina taking on NC State with a 32.5-point line. Murray State, Missouri, 47.5-point line. Lindenwood versus Kansas, 44.5. Southern Utah versus Utah, 38.5. And then Temple, my Temple Owls, going to play Oklahoma at a 42.5-point favorite. How do you approach this weekend betting-wise, Joe, when you see all of these numbers? Do you just ride the favorites out, or there's some spots that you say, you know what, maybe these dogs can at least hang around and get a cover?
Yeah, like that NC State line, again, you have Grayson McCall that comes over in regards to that, and Jordan Waters, the running back from Duke, that are a new dynamic 1-2 punch for NC State. But Dave Doran and the Wolfpack have been this methodical type of offense. And even though they were 9-3 last year, and they're a very good home team, 32.5, Donnie, is a huge number to be laying with a quarterback that came out of Coastal Carolina. And Grayson McCall was one of the best FBS quarterbacks throughout his career, but struggled last year with some injuries. We saw Brennan Armstrong struggle in that offense. I might be inclined to take the 32.5 with Western Carolina. And again, when you look at Oklahoma and Temple is so bad. Jackson Arnold in Oklahoma should be able to rip them early on. That's the biggest thing, is that the sights and the temperament and perception of Oklahoma is down this year with a 7.5 win total. This is an opportunity to really make a statement at home, and they beat up on non-conference opponents early on. I would lay it with Oklahoma and take the points with Western Carolina.
Yeah, it should be a fun start to the weekend. As we said, we're going to that Colorado Buffaloes game. Prime time in prime time should be a lot of fun. And also, boy, oh boy, with that post-game press conference is going to be heated up either way, because a lot of people hoping that Colorado loses. Deion understands that. He'll be ready to return fire if his team really comes prepared. But if they lose, are we going to get to see one of the all-time press conferences with questions flying left and right at Deion Sanders? This is the great part about college football starting up. And also, the Dallas Cowboys, they signed Dalvin Cook this morning. An aging backfield to go along with Zeke here. Who knows what's in stake for the Cowboys in 2024. We got some big games on the docket this week in college football, and we got Joe Lisi here to talk about it. Come on back with us. Joe Lisi, Donnie Right Side Radio on the early line, talking about college football, and a new season is upon us. A new setup for Joe Lisi in the home studio. We are absolutely ready to go, people. Clemson, Georgia, neutral site, the big dogs. Yes, pun intended. Georgia Bulldogs favored by 13.5 points over Clemson. That total, which opened up at 50.5, Joe, actually dropping to 48.5. We know what Georgia brings to the table. Is this the same old Clemson we're used to basically the last 10 years, or are we getting a glimpse of maybe the not-so-strong side of the Clemson Tigers?
Yeah, if Clemson does not show well in this game, Donnie, it could be the end of the dynasty that we know it in regards to Dabo Swinney. Now, from the series perspective, it's been owned by Georgia. They've won 7 of the last 8 in terms of the series. The last Clemson win came back in 2013. That shows you how long ago Clemson knocked off Georgia. They haven't played every year, but they did play a few years ago with DJU, and Georgia won that ball game 10-7. The fact that this line is coming down actually has me a little bit intrigued, because in order for Clemson to win, they're going to need Cade Klubnik to step up and stretch that defense over the top. It wasn't the same dominant Georgia defense that we've seen in terms of years past in regards to just taking games over when they won a natty just a couple of seasons ago with, 14, 15 defensive stars that made it to the NFL. They were a bend but don't break defense, but in the bigger games stepped up. The biggest thing when you look at this, Don, is that Georgia last year had the number 1 ranked third down offense, 55% conversion rate, and the number 1 ranked third down defense. So you know when your defense is giving you short fields and multiple opportunities to score, and opposing defenses can't shut down Carson Beck in your offense, what does that mean? They just roll away and cover numbers. So again, 13.5 with 6 months of preparation. This is do or die for Dabo Swinney. They did win 5 games down the stretch last year and won by 10.6 points per game. I think Georgia wins, but I'm going to take the points with Clemson. I'm starting to like the over, though.
Yeah, always intriguing to watch some of these opening battles where so many times you're supposed to have that layup or that cupcake on your schedule to start the season before you get going. But these two teams going to tangle as 2 Power 5 opponents, both of them hoping to make the college football playoff. And this will be a big springboard to either team wins this game. 7:30 p.m. on Saturday night, 209-210 on the rotation. That is Notre Dame and Texas A&M. How about this line at the FanDuel Sportsbook, Joe? Opened up at 1.5. Now we're seeing it as high as 2.5. Other outlets going as high as 3 points. Now, totals typically in college football, you're going to see routinely high 50s, 60s, sometimes 70s. Take a look at this one. Opened up at 48.5 at FanDuel, now down to 46.5. Is this going to be a defensive struggle? And who takes the game here, Notre Dame or A&M?
Yeah, Donnie, this is the most intriguing line that I've seen. Again, they have an 8.5 win total, Texas A&M. And tell me the last time Texas A&M overachieved expectations. Kevin Sumlin didn't do it. Jimbo Fisher didn't do it. R.C. Slocum and Jackie Sherrill and Mike Sherman didn't do it. Why do we believe Mike Elko's going to do it, especially in year number 1? I'm starting to like the under here. You have 2 defensive-minded head coaches, Marcus Freeman, Mike Elko. Elko also knows Riley Leonard, the starting quarterback for Notre Dame, very well because he started at Duke last year, almost led the upset over Notre Dame in Durham. They were a 5.5-point dog before Sam Hartman and the Fighting Irish pulled that ball game out in the last minute. But again, I still believe that Notre Dame is the better team. I think they have the better quarterback. Leonard over Connor Wegman. Wegman struggled in big games with consistency last year. And I'll throw a stat out there. Marcus Freeman, last 2 years on the road or on a neutral field site, straight up 10-4 overall. Might be ugly, but I'll take Notre Dame with the points. I'm just not buying into the hype of A&M, especially in game number 1.
Yeah, a lot of new moving parts as well, as you talked about. Riley Leonard coming over to play quarterback here for Notre Dame, fresh off of Sam Hartman last year. So we'll see if he can provide that, but not a lot of returning starters on that Notre Dame offense for that game, but it should be a good one. Let me just ask you a quick general question about this weekend's games, too, because Boston College is going to take on Florida State on September 2nd, de facto the last game of the weekend. Looking at Florida State's season and at the advent of obviously the 12-team playoff, Joe, you can afford a loss at this point. But I don't think too many people thought that Florida State technically was going to lose that game. 13.5, 10.5 point favorites, depending when you got it at. What's the MO for Florida State in this game? Are we now worried that they're favored by 2 touchdowns, and can they even beat Boston College? Or is that more of a mirage that we saw in game number 1 for FSU?
Well, again, it's a conference game, right? And we talked about that in regards to week 1. It's Boston College's first game of the year, and it's the best team potentially on paper heading into the regular season. And let's not forget, last year in Hill, they were a 20.5, 21-point underdog And Thomas Castellanos almost won that game single-handedly with his legs. They lost it, I believe, 32-29. Now you come back home to Tallahassee. Again, do I put a lot of weight into that loss? Yeah, absolutely. It was a terrible loss by Mike Norvell and Florida State. I thought they were walking through the motions, but it's still not the same team that we saw last year. DJU comes over. There's a lot of defensive players that also have transferred in. The continuity wasn't there from the offense and defensive line perspective. This is a no play for me, but I probably would lay it with Florida State, hoping that they kick it up a notch. They're more intense, and I got to believe that defense comes to play. The fact that it's in Tallahassee, now you're getting them basically a 4-point discount, I would lay it.
Now, it is hurricane season in the state of Florida here. Big chest Mario out here as a favorite against the Gators in Gatorland. I mean, is this the Hurricanes' year? They putting it all together, and all that money spent on NIL comes to fruition with a playoff appearance for those Hurricanes.
Absolutely not. And I was going to talk on the last half of the segment. I was going to bash them and continue to bash them. I'll do it after you're gone. But I'll just say this, Mario, 12-13 in South Beach. Everybody's praising Cam Ward and Damian Martinez, and rightfully so. But they were 2-4 last year, Donnie, on the road or on a neutral field site. And he might not even have the best quarterback potentially in this matchup. I'll talk about it on the break.
Come on now, Joe. Come on. Feel the need here. Sebastian the Ibis is here. You can't fade Sebastian the Ibis. Lay the points with the Canes. Take them to win the national championship. Mario Cristobal, one of the best coaches in this nation, is going to show up this year. Cam Ward, go Canes, go.